Hey Google, restart video.
Hey everyone, Scott Ennis, voice actor, Hollywood actor, movie star. Don't believe all that. I'm a legend in my own mind. Hey, you know me better as the voice of some of the most popular cartoon characters in the world. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scurry-Dubby-Doo, Puppy Tower, Black and Shaggy too. And you got the Sullivan Project podcast coming at you right now.
Hey Google, stop. Hey Google, turn your volume to 50%. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Harold Sullivan. Welcome to the Sullivan Project podcast. Hey Google, what time is it?
It's 7:08 p.m.
Okay. Hey Google, stop. We don't want any errors like before. Because Wi-Fi thing's talking all kinds of crap. If you tune into one of the last episodes, you'll see that. But anyways, I want to congratulate everyone who's involved in the podcast and everyone who, subscribes or joins, likes, comments, anything. If you share. Hey Google, stop. I hope it ain't gonna start that up again. See, I do that. It's weird. It just started talking again on its own. It's only doing this when I'm doing the podcast. It'll start to play the other podcast. Because I had it on that. Anyway. We actually hit 100 podcast episodes recently. And my sister helped me put together a little video. I'm blind and disabled, in case y'all haven't tuned in before. We'll get into that in a second. But we did a little video. She helps me out as a caregiver. And for Halloween, just a little 20-something second. Thanking everybody. It's on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. And Harold Sullivan 78 on TikTok, Harold Sullivan 78 on YouTube, and Harold Sullivan period 35 is where you can reach the Sullivan Project podcast. So actually, yeah, I did that little video for Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Ambient screen.
And that's my A word over there. I don't want to say it because I have the A and the G. I have a few different talking devices since I lost my sight 2 years ago. And I was born with an autoimmune disease, so I haven't been able to walk since I was a child. I'm 44, and I'm short, as you can tell, about 4 feet, a little over 4 feet, about 70 pounds. But like I said, everyone has a story. You can't judge a book by its cover. We're all here for something, and God's kept me going, spirit, or however you want to say it. I'm still here. We're all still here. We're here for something. Why is everyone else gone? I know 30-some people have died, and I've been close to death that many times. So this podcast is just, like I said, it's for everyone. It's about everything. It's my journey and everyone else's, because we're all connected. All is one. So we actually hit 100 subscribers too. I can't believe my sister on YouTube. My sister said, I said, what's the number? It was like 60 a couple months ago, and I was like so happy it got that far, because I only had maybe less than 10 before I started the podcast. So people were actually tuning in, and I appreciate it so much, because even just last night, I was up pretty much all night. I don't sleep much since I lost my sight. And I was just doing research because I'm going to do a free psychic reading with astrology, numerology, and a couple other things. I'm going to do that for a friend of mine here soon. I'm going to record a video. And I just want to help people. Like I told God, when I got really depressed tonight, I came home and I didn't want to live anymore. After losing my sight and going to like 14 different doctors and everything else I've been through, and could barely, move my hands and fingers, anything. Can't sit up on my own. And I quit breathing that night 20 times. At least I have sleep apnea as well. But I can't wear the mask. I could never wear the oxygen. It was too much for my little lungs. When I got diagnosed, I went to the hospital in my early 30s. And I tried to wear that mask. I stayed at the hospital. In case people don't know, when you get tested for sleep apnea, they put you in a room and they watch you with all these wires and stuff hooked up to you. Kind of like in that movie Nightmare on Elm Street when they were watching Nancy, exactly like that. And so the guy comes in later on, he's like, yeah, you quit breathing sometimes for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. I'm like, how do you live? But you can actually live without breathing. I don't know. So the doctor said I just have to deal with it, If I die, I die, apparently. So every day I wake up, I thank God I breathe. Oh man, and I'm still here. And I said, well, I'm going to help any way I can the rest of my life. And I'm working on a book. That was the first idea. And the podcast in the meantime. If anybody wants to help out with any of this stuff, I appreciate to reach out to me. Like helping with the book or want to be on the show. We want guests too, and a lot of this I'm going to put in the book. It's all our journeys, like I said. I should have drank something, but I didn't. I vaped a little while ago. So yeah, we hit 100. I started to tear up. I didn't even know if I'd ever get 50 or 100, let alone right away. Because in the last month to 2 months, we've gotten almost 40 subscribers. It's raining out, so my body's in pain. So I'm kind of leaning back and forth. I got scoliosis over here, pinched nerve. I got all kinds of stuff going on. But if you want to know about that stuff and the surgeries and that I've been through, check out previous episodes. We're going to talk more about Superman here today, and we're going to do Back to the Future, the trilogy review, all 3 movies. So this month I've been doing Superman stuff because it's the 85th anniversary of Superman. So, and then it's Halloween, so we did some Halloween and whatnot. So we talk about spiritual, metaphysical, supernatural, paranormal, and then we do regular stuff. Just sit around and chill, talk about movies and entertainment and music. I'm also writing songs, and I got a little keyboard over there. Maybe one day I'm gonna try to record on here to show y'all what I'm actually doing, typing one finger at a time on the keyboard. But I want to produce some songs here that I've been writing. Literally, probably 4 dozen songs I've written in the last year and a half since I lost my sight. And then channeling, all kinds of stuff coming through. My Sullyism, right? All is one. Let go, let God. Everything is always for something. The key is forgiveness. Forget to remember. I got so many of these things I've just been coming up with, right? Up with Jesus or down with sin. God got me, who got you? Luck is a lack of faith. So I just come up with them. Use them as you want. I don't want, you know what I mean? It's all for love and light only. So yeah, we're going to talk about these couple things here. And speaking of inspirational stuff, I'm also putting together a music list. So songs that I like, and they'll be in the book too, like a chapter. So we got Dream Lover is another song. I'm sure y'all have heard it mostly. It's Dream Lover. I want a girl to call my own. I want a dream lover, so I don't have to dream alone. It's that song. So that's a song. And then Earth Angel, which is actually in Back to the Future. Earth Angel, will you be mine, my darling dear? Love you for all time. So it's that song. So those came to my mind, actually, Earth Angel. The last few days while I was getting ready for Back to the Future, to talk about this, getting ready, thinking about it, a couple of things have happened. So I actually came up and remembered Earth Angel. Okay, so we're gonna put those 2 songs in Dream Lover, Earth Angel. A couple of inspirational songs. Yeah, a couple of inspirational. But then so then the other day I was listening to a podcast last night about psychics. This has nothing to do with anything. Literally, and I'm thinking about the scenes in the movie Back to the Future, so I can talk to you all about it. And How Long May Fly, of course, everybody knows that. Most people might not know where it's from. It's from Back to the Future. Literally 3 seconds later, the guy on the podcast says, "Hello, McFly," and he references it. In the psychic podcast, has nothing to do with it. But he actually brings up, what are the odds of that happening literally within 3 seconds? Because I counted it. It's weird because I know these synchronicities. And okay, if that happens once or twice, maybe 3 times a day, but I noticed them dozens, maybe 100 times a day now, since I'm so much more open to all the veils have come down or whatever, and I'm still working on all that because I want complete inner peace. I want nirvana on earth. I want heaven here. I don't want this to be hell. You know, so uh, just think about all the synchronicities, all these things, how they match up. Like, what are the odds on that dude saying that? There's no way. I don't believe in uh, accidents, coincidences, or mistakes. So yeah, we got that. McFly. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, The Crow. Second, Superman returned to Bryan Singer cameo.
Okay.
Third, Supergirl Mighty Mouse underdog. Hello McFly Gatekeeper.
Okay. And then also I learned about a gatekeeper now. I heard that before. I didn't know. Now you have spirit guides and you have ghosts and you have ancestors and you have all different kinds of beings on other levels. Okay. And a gatekeeper is actually someone who helps to guide who comes in, like who only lets in uh, for love and light, your only breath protection, nothing negative, bad, or what you don't want in, and you just have to ask for that. So maybe I'll do a short or do a little video on how to beat your spirit guides and how to get into your rooms and how to do the Akashic records and all these things that you can access in your mind. But the gatekeeper is someone that kind of is higher up and protects you and ciphers through who gets in to talk to you and influence you in your life. Think about that. The gatekeeper. The Crow. Now I just found out, not sure if it's true, but they've been trying to remake it or do another Crow movie for years. And there was actually Brandon Lee died in that movie, and there was a stunt double died when they did the Crow TV show a few years after the movie in Canada, which was a good show. It's called Stairway to Heaven, and Corey Feldman was actually in it. He played one of the Crow's friends when he was alive. So the guy was kind of like Brandon Lee, kind of looked and sounded like him. And it was called Stairway to Heaven, but it only lasted about 2 seasons. But yeah, a guy died on that, so there was like a jinx kind of with it. And there was actually 4 Crow movies original, but Brandon Lee was only in the first. It was different Crows after the first one, and different characters, I should say, as Crows. Because the Crow is someone who basically comes back to settle something, and the Crow is supposed to carry your soul to the other, you know. In myth, Crow carries your soul to the other life, but if you have something to settle, it will remain. So that's the Crow. But supposedly the guy who plays Loki now is going to be the Crow. And I'm like, oh no, Tom Hiddleston or Middleton. Last person attached to it was Jason Momoa, to Aquaman, which I was like, oh no, he's too big and all that long hair. Like, I don't understand. What kind of are they? And then Bradley Cooper before that. Everybody knows Bradley Cooper. They actually had concept art with him wearing like leather and like a guitar and having spiked, like a mohawk, and it was weird years ago. So I don't know. We'll see what they do with the Crow here. So Superman Returns. Let's talk about that because I did a movie review last podcast on Superman Returns, 2006. Now Bryan Singer, the director, he actually did the first 3 X-Men movies, and he was a huge Superman fan before that. So he actually got to go do Superman because he kind of, everybody knew him from doing X-Men. And he was a big fan of the Richard Donner one. So that's why he tried to keep it along with the first 2 movies. So I want to mention that. And then also his brother, Bobby Singer, is from Supernatural. Robert Singer, he's a director or producer that did all those shows, and then they actually named Bobby the character after him. So the singers are, have some talent there. And then cameos in that movie, Superman Returns, in case people don't know. There's a bartender talking to Clark, which I don't know why he's in the bar because he can't get drunk. But it was the old original Jack Larson, I believe was the name, the original from the 60s Superman, Adventures of Superman, the one with George Reeves. It was the original Jimmy Olsen. He was in there. That was the old man, the really old man. And then the lady, Noelle Neal, had died at the very beginning, who Lex was swindling out of money. They took her dog or whatever, her dog ate the other dog. It was pretty sick. She had 2 dogs, and when they went back, it was only one. So I guess one ate the other one, little Pomeranians. But the older lady, that was actually one of the original. People consider her the original Lois, but there was actually two original Lois Lanes in the Adventures of Superman. The first one was only on like one season, maybe or two, and then the other one took over. So those are those cameos. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, The Crow. Second, Superman Return to Bryan Singer cameos. Third, Supergirl Mighty Mouse Underdog. Hello, McFly Gatekeeper.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, Superman animated. We had actually there was a Supergirl movie in the late 80s in case people were interested in that. It wasn't bad. It was right along with the Superman movies. Special effects, and everything was the same with the rating. And then we have Superman animated. I didn't mention that. So there was a TV show, Superman the Animated Series, which was pretty good. I think it went like 5 or 6 seasons, maybe in the 90s. Kevin Conroy, I believe, was the voice. And then I think they did crossovers with Batman. No, it was Tim Daly. Kevin Conroy is Tim Daly's Superman. Kevin Conroy is Batman. And they did crossovers with the Batman and Superman animated, which was cool. And they actually did Superman video game way back. There was a couple, and then Superman Returns. I think Nintendo actually did a Superman game. It was terrible though. And Superman animated. So if there was any other animated ones, I don't. I'm not sure. There are new ones. There've been a few. Oh, of course, Justice League back in the day. Super Friends it was called. And then you have Mighty Mouse and Underdog, which were cartoon ripoffs. Mighty Mouse, there's no need to fear. Or no, Underdog was, there's no need to fear. Underdog is here. And that was like in the 60s or 70s. And he was like in a red blue suit with a big U on the front. And he looked like Snoopy, and it was called Underdog. And then you have Mighty Mouse, which was a mouse. I think he had an M on him maybe, or some other logo. And I believe he was red and yellow. And Mighty Mouse was, here I come to save the day. Like with a deep voice, and I forget the rest of it. Alexa, or never mind. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
I found 38 notes.
Alexa, stop. Jesus, they're talking to it like that's not supposed to work. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember? They're answering each other. I got like 4 or 5 devices in there hooked together to Wi-Fi. Hey Google, stop. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember? Now it's mixing up my lyrics in there. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, The Crow. Second, Superman Return to Bryan Singer cameos.
Okay.
Third, Supergirl Mighty Mouse Underdog. Hello, McFly Gatekeeper.
Hey Google, delete the first one.
Done. It's forgotten.
Hey Google, what did I want you to remember? This is how I take notes since I'm live.
I remember you told me.
Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told
And
me.
this is how I tell
First,
time.
Superman Return to Bryan Singer cameos.
Hey Google, delete the first one.
Done.
And when I'm writing songs, I do them one line at a time in here. Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told
Once
me.
we get to the Back to the
First, at
Future.
one time Shorty was hot to trot.
Hey Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, Supergirl Mighty Mouse Underdog. Hello, McFly Gatekeeper.
Okay.
Second, Quantum Leap the Challenge. Superman animated body temperature. Sodom and Gomorrah.
Hey Google, stop. Okay, Sodom and Gomorrah, let me talk about that first. They just said scientists have discovered they think that a meteor hit, and that's what happened. In the Bible, they talk about an explosion and whatnot, like something, a crash or nuclear. So now they're saying all these years later, maybe they finally found out that a meteor hit. And body temperature, I want to mention that as well. If you notice, maybe on here sometimes, if y'all, let me know, because I've been seeing orbs and stuff, and my body, I'll get hot, I'll get red, I'll get cool, different times when I'm feeling certain things. Or if there's certain people around, or in the room with me, or even on the phone, I'll get cool or I'll get hot, like I'm charging up, and then when they leave, I'll get cool again, or I'll get hot, depending on the type of person they are and stuff. These are all intuition and whatnot, comes with your body. I'm just picking all this up, my stuff's all crazy. And then I want to mention the challenge. Yeah, the challenge is on back on MTV, and now they're doing another one. So they're gonna have two challenges going at once here. You got the one on USA, and then you got the one on MTV, which is going to be people that never won against other people that have won, I guess. And then Quantum Leap, I'm gonna talk about that episode here. The third episode, I think it was. I can't remember what it was about now. Jesus. What was the third episode about here? You had the bank. Oh, this was about UFOs, okay, supposedly anyway. You know, it's not going to be spoilers. It's just getting worse with the episodes. It's like they're just writing them now. And then, of course, you added that whole thing in where the girl gave up because the leaper was disappeared and they couldn't find him for 3 years. And now they added this other wrinkle in. How did they locate him after 3 years? And how, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to give up on the show yet, but it's getting pretty bad, the new show, Quantum Leap. But I'm actually a producer on the Quantum Leap podcast. So go check that out. I mean, they do a great job, though. They review all the new stuff, any old episodes, and books, and pretty much anything Quantum Leap. So check out the Quantum Leap podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, Supergirl Mighty Mouse Underdog Hello McFly Gatekeeper.
Hey, Google, delete the first one.
Done. It's forgotten.
Hey, Google, what did I want you to remember?
Here's what you told me. First, Quantum Leap the challenge Superman animated body temperature Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay.
Second, the other two in the
Hey, Google, stop. Okay. So now we're going to get to Back to the Future, the trilogy. And actually, speaking of Back to the Future, there was a Nintendo game for part one, which was very hard. Not too many people could beat it. And it was good. You had a map and you went around the town and you did different things. And one of the hardest parts was you went into a diner and there was milkshakes and they were throwing them, like sliding them down. You just had to catch them. And then, of course, Biff would come out and people would come out and beat you up in the streets. And then they did a part 2 and 3 together in one video game.
Echo, turn off.
And you got to go into a time machine, and you got to go back and you had to collect stuff to use in the meter to go back in time.
Ambient screen.
Flux capacitor. And you got to get on the hoverboard. It was really cool, Nintendo. And then a few years back, Telltale did some video games. And the guy who does the voice for Marty McFly, he's actually on YouTube. They found him on the internet because he does a great impression. I think his name is Alex something. He sounds just like Michael J. Fox. If you want to check him out, he's probably on YouTube. You can find him. But he did the voice for like 5 parts for a video game for Back to the Future. And then they did a cartoon, I think the animated series like in the late 80s, early 90s. And then, of course, you got the 3 movies. And then you have, there's a book called We Don't Need Roads, which I listened to the audio version a few months ago. Hey, Google, what time is it?
It's 7:30 p.m.
Oh, okay. Well, we covered a lot in just a few minutes there. I'm so happy about that 100 subscribers on YouTube, y'all. Oh, speaking of that, yeah, I'd like to start doing some contests and whatnot. The best way to hit me up is I have Facebook Messenger and I can answer it with my voice. So Facebook Messenger Harold Sullivan #35. And we'll start doing contests. And I'm making essential oils. I've been making jewelry. I have art that I made custom 12-inch 1/6 scale doll action figures I made before I lost my sight that I could give away. And all this stuff. I got hats for the podcast. And I got pens and I got t-shirts and bumper stickers I can get made. All I ask for those is just to pay whatever I gotta pay. Okay? And everything else, as far as if I do contests or the stuff I've made, I will give away free. I ask you just pay shipping. As far as if I do essential oils, for instance, a bottle or something. I just will send some of my art to you. And so yeah, you hit me up for that. And if anybody wants any of that stuff or is interested, just contact me. And then we'll talk from there. Or like I said, if you want to be on the podcast, that's the easiest way directly to, or call the show, 724-513-1472. And you can leave a message or I may answer. And I will get back to you. Because there was times I didn't have anybody. And Dan was calling me. He's been on here many times. and I was blind, and I laid there in the bed and didn't want to talk to anybody. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to, or someone calls you at the right moment. And I was like, at least one person's calling. So if I can do that for y'all, call me. I'm here. I love you. I love everyone. You should always love unconditional. You don't have to like someone or don't like her. You don't have to understand someone just because you don't understand them. Doesn't give you the right to dislike them or hate them. You know what I mean? Just love them no matter what. And respond and don't react. So yeah, Back to the Future. So Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, they call them the two Bobs, did the movies. Spielberg was introduced or produced, but they didn't want to have him directly, go on his name, so they tried to do it on their own pretty much. So they wrote the script. The original script had a lot of stuff different. Like the time machine was going to be a refrigerator on the back of a truck they were going to drive around. And Doc Brown was going to have a monkey instead of Einstein the dog. And there was going to be different ideas. I think the Beatles were even involved in one of those scripts. So they wrote them, and they actually wrote them as like three together. And then they filmed part 2 and 3 together. I actually thought they did part 1 and 2 together. But they didn't. But they did it so great that it looks like they did, because movies I have never heard of a movie going back into itself. Like the second one went back to part 1, but then added a whole other thing to it. And that had to be so difficult to reshoot and do all that. But they did it. And then they tied it into, and then they did part 3. They tied it into part 3. At the beginning of part 2 is the end of part 1. It's pretty neat. And speaking of that song, Earth Angel, the man singing it actually was the man's voice. He thought he was going to be overdubbed. So that guy, you can go check him out. I forget his name. He's online though. He was an actor, and he's been in a bunch of stuff. And I think he actually was in Quantum Leap, an episode of that. And I was like, wait a minute, how's he tie into Back to the Future? He was on one of the Supernatural. Maybe it was Supernatural. I think it was Supernatural. It's one of the shows that I'm into. But it's neat how these things all link together. But yeah, and that's one of my favorite songs. And that was not Michael J. Fox singing Johnny Be Good, but he lip synced it. People thought he sang it, and they purposely left the man's name off the credits who sang it, and he was okay with it because they wanted the illusion that Michael J. Fox sang it, and people actually thought he did. And of course, hoverboards were not real in part 2, but they came out with like a thing and said they were, but they really weren't. The parents were going crazy, right? Then where can we get these? But the hoverboards were just strings, and then they had like a harness, like a diaper the actors would wear, so they would only show like their legs down, and the wires would hold them up, or they edited out the wires. They didn't have CGI back then, so they had to really hold them up in the air for long scenes. And then, well, let's talk about part 1, and then we'll go from there. And my trilogy, each one I'd probably say part 1, 3.5 to 4. Part 2, probably 3.5. And part 3, maybe a 3, as for all the movies. Because they got worse, but they were all good, Part 3 was about the Old West. Part 2 was in the future, where they thought it was going to be like Jaws, part 20-something. That was cool. But in the first one, okay, now, there was an original Marty McFly, Eric Stoltz. So he, after about a couple months of shooting, they decided they didn't like it, and they actually went back and got Michael J. Fox. They originally wanted him. He was doing Family Ties and could only shoot at certain times, and it wasn't going to work. But after the movie was not doing well, so then they actually had to recast Jennifer, because the Jennifer was the wrong height because the Marty was shorter. Eric Stoltz was way taller. So there was actually 2 Jennifers and 2 Martys. And in part 2, they recasted the father because they didn't like how Crispin Glover was such a diva, I guess, on the first movie, that they casted somebody that looked like him and put face prosthetics on him to make him look older and had the guy imitate him. And then he actually sued them. You know what I mean? He got some money because they basically stole his likeness and whatnot. They actually made a thing in actors' contracts after that where they can't dress someone up to look like another actor and copy their voice. So, but they did that in part 2. And they even wrote it in that George McFly died. So in the script, see, that was all kind of a nod in a negative direction to Crispin Glover. All this stuff went on behind these movies. And it's a wonder they were made, like I said. And the first one was delayed so much and they had so many problems. The effects didn't work. The hoverboard, the second one, they had problems with that. They had to lift the cars up and down with, they were using an actual like forklift and stuff. And almost broke the DeLorean. They almost killed a girl on the scene in part 2. One of the ones there was three villains that were with, there was two with the young Griff or whatever, chasing Marty, and they crashed in the clock tower, and the one girl actually almost died because they cut her line before she flew in, and she was like fell 40 feet. And this is terrible. Then they went and got someone else to do it, the stunt. But so yeah, Back to the Future, basically part 1. You got this young kid. Plus, there's great scores. John Williams, of course. I believe John Williams did. No, Alvin Silvestri. John Williams might have been part. No, John Williams did the Back to the Future. Silvestri might have been part of it too. But I know John Williams. I used to have the soundtrack. And Huey Lewis was on it. Power of Love. And he didn't originally want to do it, but he's like, I don't know how to write a song about time travel. So he had a song about love and put it in there. And then he actually did Back in Time. He wrote that later on, a song about time travel. And Huey Lewis was in the movie. He has a cameo. He's a nerdy school teacher who's judging them to be in the concert. He has the glasses, and he's like, "You're just too darn loud." That was Huey Lewis. And he didn't want anybody to know he was in the movie because he thought that it was going to ruin his career as a singer. And it jacked his career up and made him more popular, probably. But so basically, you have a scientist and a young kid. They're friends. Scientist invents a time machine. The scientist is going to use the time machine. He says, "Come and record me, and I'm going to take this adventure." And so when the kid goes to record him, the Libyans show up where Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, had stole the stuff that he gave him to make a bomb. And he used the parts to make a time machine, and he actually stole plutonium somewhere, which is radioactive. And so he's about to take off in the time machine. The Libyans show up, and they shoot Doc, and he's laying there for dead. And Einstein is there with Doc. And so Marty gets in the car, and the time machine is built into a car, a DeLorean. And once you hit 88 miles an hour, it's supposed to do something. So he takes off in the car, not even realizing what's going on, and he's going fast from the Libyans trying to escape. And then he ends up back in the 50s because in the 50s is whenever Doc came up with the idea. And for 30 years, he was trying to build a time machine. And he just punched in the date, just randomly thinking on this dial in the time machine. So when Marty went back, he actually went to that date. And he runs into his father. And he keeps his father and mother from running into each other, like from falling in love, which starts to erase him. And he has a picture in his wallet where he starts to disappear, him and his brother and sister. So he goes and finds the original Doc, and he tries to convince him, "You made a time machine in the future. I have the time machine, but it don't work. You got to help me figure out how to get it to work so I can go back home." That's the whole premise of part 1. And then part 2, after they save the day, I don't want to tell you how, it ends up, it's no good, and Marty comes back again. And Marty actually has to go to the future. Let me think about that now. Marty goes to the. Oh no, Marty goes into the. Wait a minute, I gotta think about this now. Marty gets in the time machine. Oh yeah, Doc comes and gets Marty in part 2. So Doc comes and gets Marty after everything is saved. And he says, "You gotta do something, kids are gonna be messed up in the future." So he grabs Marty and Jennifer because they're together. And he knocks out Jennifer with some kind of stuff and makes her go to sleep. And they leave her in an alleyway and they go try to keep Marty's son, Michael J. Fox plays his son and his daughter in the movie. And his older self and his younger self. And there's an older Biff there. So they go to 2015 to try to save his son from making a decision. And the older Biff goes and buys a sports almanac because he overhears Marty and Doc talking, and he takes the time machine and goes back and gives himself to Almanac in 1955 so that he can get rich. So when Marty goes back to 1985, the time has changed and everything, and it's not his 85. It's basically Biff owns and he rules everything. There's casinos and drugs everywhere. And he's turned Marty's mom into a hooker and married her. And George is dead, Marty's dad. And Marty's mom has big boobs, big fake ones. It's terrible, really. So you got this whole thing going on. And then Marty has to get Doc again to help him. You know what I mean? And then part 3, after they save the day again in part 3, or part 2, at the end, the lightning, Doc is in the light, and then in the DeLorean, and it's lightning out, it's struck by lightning, and Doc disappears. Here, Doc goes back to 1885, instead of 1985. The dial was blinking, and it just goes back. And Doc had always wanted to go back to the Old West anyway. So he actually ends up in 1885. And Marty's standing there on this road. And he's in 1955, and he has no way to get anywhere. And the time machine is, we get mixed up here. Yeah, he has no way to get, where is he? Yeah, he has nowhere. He has to go. He's I can't remember. He said 1985. Everything's messed up. He goes and finds his Doc in 1985. That's right. And his dog helps him. I don't know how his dog knows. Somehow his dog knows that things are messed up. Oh, that's right. His dog is with him. Duh. Yeah, no, I don't think that. So yeah, as soon as Doc realizes Marty's dad's dead, he goes to the graveyard, and then Marty's there. So they go back and they have a DeLorean. They got to figure out what happened. That's what they figured out. So Doc from 85 helps Marty, and then Marty gets back and goes back to 1885, but he's out of gas and the DeLorean can't run because it's shot by cowboys and Indians coming up behind him. So he parks it into a cavern and buries it there. So he's out of gas, and there's no way to get the DeLorean up to speed because he can't have no gas. Well, he does have Mr. Fusion though, so you don't need plutonium. That's why I didn't mention that. But Doc comes back in part 2. You don't need the plutonium anymore because he put a fusion device in the future on the DeLorean, so you can put junk in it, not garbage, to run the time travel part. But you still need gas. So now the dilemma is: you're back in the Old West in 1885. Oh, and then there's no gas. But he found out where Doc was because when Marty's on that road in part 2 at the end, a Western Union guy shows up, and he has a letter from Doc, and he says, "We've been holding on to this for somewhere like 100 years or something." And he gives him a letter, and it's a letter from Doc, and he goes, I forget what he gives him the letter. I think it's 85. But yeah, it has to be. But he says, "You're alive and well in the Old West." So that's when he goes and he tells the other Doc, he's in the Old West, and he gets him to help him. So Marty goes back to the Old West, and in part 3 he plays his relative, his old great-great-grandfather or something, and himself. And of course there's an old Biff there, and an old gang. Marty invents a Frisbee because he takes his pie pan and he throws it, and it has Frisbee on it. And so it's Frisbee Pie Company, which actually was how that was invented. But it was a guy on the beach, and he was throwing the pan, just playing the game with his kid or something back in the day. And Frisbee wasn't his name, but he went and started collecting the pans and he was selling them for more than the 10 cents or whatever the people were trading them in for. And he started making money that way, calling them Frisbees. And then people just molded them out like that and called it a Frisbee. So that's the Frisbee story, in case you all don't know. Hey Google, what time is it?
It's 7:46 p.m.
22. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we're in part 3 now. And yeah, the dilemma is Marty's in the past with Doc, and they have no gas, and they can't get to the future. and Doc is going to get killed because when they were in the tombstone, when they were, was it the tombstone? They took a picture or something. I think it was when we took a picture of the tombstone. That's right. Doc's picture was there too in 1885. So they were buried together. Doc actually got killed in 1885 by Mad Dog Cannon. Biff's relative was shot in the back. So Marty has to keep him from being shot within a week, but they have no way to get to the future to avoid it. So, and in the meantime, Doc has a refrigerator. Basically, it's a giant contraption in the garage that he makes little ice cubes out of and things. But he can't invent gas. It's not been invented yet. And he tries mixing alcohol and stuff together and whatnot. And then they actually save a lady's life who was supposed to die, a teacher. She was supposed to go in a ravine. And they used to call it Clayton Ravine after their teacher, Marty says. But it was called Shonash, the Indian name originally. And since they actually saved her because they don't realize it, and this lady's about to die, her horses are about to throw a carriage. They save her, and Doc falls in love with her. And then he's like, I don't want to go to the future. I just want to stay here. So Marty gets back on the DeLorean there, and they're like, well, wait a minute. The only way we can get this, we got to get this up to 88. We can push it with a train, and Doc is going to build these logs that can make the train go faster, because the only trains can only go maybe 50, 60 miles an hour. And they have another problem is there's only one straight line of track to go that fast, but it's not finished. So the ravine is there. That's where the lady almost went over. So they actually have to get the DeLorean up to 88 before it goes into the ravine and get to the future. So they hijack the train, and that's when Doc decides to stay with Clara because he tries to tell Clara, the lady, that he's a time traveler and all that, and she don't believe him. He's really hurt. So he just leaves her, and then she actually gets on a horse and tries to find him. And then she sees the DeLorean and all that, and she tries to get on him. She actually gets on the train, and she's almost killed, and she's on this train speeding. So Doc goes back and tries to save her from falling off, and of course he stays there, and Marty goes back to the future where he's supposed to be, and there's no more Doc and Clara. And then when Marty gets to the future, the DeLorean is crushed by it. He gets out of it just in time before a train hits it in the future in 85. And then, like a minute later, Doc shows up in a futuristic train, time traveler flying train, and he has a family. He has Clara and Jules and Vern, his two kids. So somehow he was able to build a time machine, I guess, back then. And he said, I'm on a journey. I'm going, I'm going to disappear and I'll be gone. So he takes off, and that's how he ends Back to the Future trilogy. Good. Hopefully y'all can get all that. It was a good bit, but yeah, like I said, the first one probably 3.5 to 4, or 4 for the first movie, 3.5 to 4, 3.5 to part 2, and probably a 3 for the third. And for the whole trilogy, I'd say, but I don't know, 3.5 to 4 stars out of 5 for the Back to the Future trilogy. It's one of my favorite trilogies, and I'm going to do an episode on best movie trilogies, but I've just thrown out names before. And so, Back to the Future, and it has to be just 3. Even though Star Wars has 3 trilogies, I would count that. But I think Godfather will be, that there's 3. And then Back to the Future, there's just 3. Bill and Ted, there's just 3. I think there's 3 Rush Hours, right? Harold and Kumar. Whatever it is, those are just ones I'm throwing out. Not the best ones, but I'm just throwing out random names of 3s. So, but yeah, that astrology, numerology, I'm going to be doing for a friend. And that'll be coming up. And then we just did some other movie reviews. We had Dean Cain, who was Superman in the New Adventures of Superman years ago. He did a cameo, so go check that out on the Sullivan Project podcast. Harold Sullivan 78 on YouTube and TikTok. Harold Sullivan period 35 on Facebook. And like I said, we all got stuff. I got pain every day. I don't sleep. I don't have a concept of time anymore. I don't know. I don't look at a clock over 2 years. I had so many surgeries when I was young. And each part of my book is going to have different parts. Like I think I've lived in 20 different locations. Instability, you know. But everything leads us to get from where we were to where we were to where we're at. And that's what I'm interested in. I want to know, how did you get, I mean, it's amazing. The time goes by, but how did you make it when you didn't think you could? And you look back and you just think about all these little things that connect. And so much has to work and connect together for one little thing, for something to happen for one of us. And they don't work out the way we want all the time. It's all on how you take it. It doesn't have to be negative or bad, you see. And you can convert that. And it's all on how you handle it. And you can take your moment, you know what I mean? But don't project on someone and don't assume anything. And because they can't feel your feeling and your pain. So, and our pain is our strength, not our weakness. So think about that too. But I'm going to sign off here. We'll be back soon. Got a new video camera and all that. Still testing it, so if there's problems and you can't see me or hear me, please turn it up. I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing what I can. And I just promised the Lord that I would help the rest of my life. And I always knew I was here to do something. We all are. We're not just here. And it doesn't just end. The lights don't just go out and that's it. So don't think it's, we're just here. Everything is always for something. One man is every man. Okay? And I'm trying to, these are all Sullyisms, like I said, write them down if you want to use them. But we'll be back again. And like I said, love is a choice, so is the hate. Be the light.